Two-shot is probably the most complicated legendary weapon effect in Fallout 4. It definitely sounds simple. Your weapon fires 2 shots for the price of 1. But does this really translate to double damage? I have gathered a variety of 2-shot weapons that I found on this run, and if we install only the most basic components on them and account for minor differences in rounding, it really does seem like the 2-shot variants inflict double damage. But if we mod them out with the biggest damage boosting mods, this double damage now turns into a roughly 58% increase. Just for fun, let's see what happens if we convert the hunting and combat rifles to the lower damage 38 calibers. Now, 2-shot is increasing our damage by around 2.3 times. I wasn't joking when I said this effect is complicated. What's happening here is that the damage from the secondary projectile is calculated off of the weapon's base damage. This is the damage the weapon would inflict when you have absolutely no damage boosting effects on you and the weapon itself has no mods that would increase or decrease its damage. For example, the combat rifle's base damage is 33, but my endgame character has enough boosts to effectively triple it. A 2-shot effect increased the combined damage of our standard rifle shot to 66, or 199 for my guy specifically. The 308 conversion mode provides a 75% damage increase, so the regular damage goes up to 57, or 172 for us. But as 2-shot only factors in the base damage and not the modified damage when calculating the extra shot, the combined damage is only 271 instead of something like 340. The 3.8 conversion mode decreases damage by 25%, so the normal damage now goes down to 25 and 75 with all our perks and boosts. But remember, the second shot is not affected by the weapon's mods, so it is going to contribute far more damage than the main one. A 38 2-shot combat rifle inflicts 58 damage on its own and 175 damage for us. You have undoubtedly noticed that the damage is still depicted as a single projectile on the weapon card, not like in New Vegas, where something like a tri-beam laser rifle showed the damage of the individual beam and had a 3x next to it. That is simply a quirk of Fallout 4, and we can see it on the shotguns too. Anything that fires multiple projectiles at once shows the combined damage if all of them connect. What the game doesn't tell you is how the damage for both projectiles is divided on a 2-shot weapon. Given how the game calculates the final damage, you might expect one bullet to be weaker than the other, but that is not the case. The game actually takes the damage displayed on the card and divides it by 2, so both bullets inflict exactly the same damage. Individual bullets from our 2-shot 308 rifles deal 135 damage. But let's make this even more complicated. How does 2-shot interact with damage resistance? On a weapon with increased base damage, each individual bullet is going to inflict less damage than from a regular variant. So does that mean highly armored targets resist 2-shot weapons more? Thankfully not. When calculating how much damage punches through, the game uses the damage number displayed on the card, so both projectiles really are treated as one. Here we have a 2-shot 10mm and a regular combat rifle modded to deal the exact same damage. Against this heavily armored robot, when both projectiles hit, the rifle and the pistol inflict the same damage. Though this isn't the case when only one bullet from a 2-shot weapon connects, and in this instance, The individual projectile is calculated against the DR, resulting in significantly decreased damage. In a typical playthrough, where the player keeps upgrading the base damage of the weapons they use, the difference between two-shot and a regular weapon is going to decrease as time goes on, but it is still going to outdamage most other options available. Even at its most extreme, a two-shot weapon will outperform effects like Plasma Infused or Assassins. Instigating will be better on high damage weapons against full health targets, and Explosive could be better on rapid fire guns, especially against groups. But overall, two-shot will consistently provide the highest DPS against all targets and across all weapons. However, that extra damage could all be theoretical, as the unmodded description of the effect fails to convey a downside endemic to it: the massive increase in recoil and spread. Let's make the two combat rifles automatic and see how they perform on full auto. The difference is comical, especially when we use all the recoil reducing modes available. The same is true even for the assault rifle, that is practically a laser beam when properly outfitted. Now it's easier to control semi-automatic variants, but it's clear that rapid firing a two-shot weapon is nothing but a way to waste ammo. The effect is also increasing our spread. At close range, you could get the impression that the two shots are overlaid on one another and both hit the same spot, though some shots do leave behind two holes. This would be more pronounced at higher ranges, but sadly, impact points don't render at all from longer distances. Still, there are ways to test long-range accuracy. I stacked my perception boosts to 28, found a super mutant warlord, got some distance, and unloaded 16 shots with a 95% hit chance. Out of those 16 shots, 11 missed completely, and I can't say for sure how many of those 5 successful strikes hit with both bullets. This shows that despite the VATS hit chance, the projectiles from two-shot kind of have a mind of their own. Last year, I made a video going in depth on VATS, and in that video, I claimed that two-shot has no effect on VATS accuracy. Technically it's still true, the displayed hit chances are the same for both a two-shot and a regular weapon, but the actual hit rate is clearly in the shitter. One more thing I wish to cover is two-shot on shotguns. I have sometimes seen claims that it only increases the pellet count by 1 rather than doubling it, making for a very underwhelming damage boost. So I console commanded an advanced double barrel and an advanced combat shotgun to both have the two-shot effect. They have rather bizarre interactions with it. The advanced modes for shotguns increase the pellet count from 7 to 8, so you'd expect both to fire 16 projectiles, but this is not the case. The damage does get increased as per the examples I showed earlier, but the pellet count remains the same. This is unusual, given how the two-shot plasma splitter does indeed fire 6 bolts instead of the usual 3. It is a straight up damage increase for each individual pellet, but you have no doubt noticed that this is where precision goes to die. You can have a literal 0 for the accuracy stat, and even with the upgrades that tighten the spread, two-shot shotguns fail to do anything meaningful outside of range kissing distance. So, what have we learned from two-shot? The two shots are treated as one, but only if both connect, which is less likely at longer distances. It inflicts double damage, but only if you're using unmodified weapons that you probably shouldn't. It is one of the best and most consistent damage boosting legendary effects, but confines you to very short ranges. Two-shot is full of ifs and buts, but if you're aware of the limitations, it will get the job done.